We now call to order the January 13th, 2025 meeting of the Cherokee County School Board. We ask that you stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by invocation by Trustee DJ McBee. Attention, salute, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we just thank you for this opportunity, Lord, to come together. I just thank you for each and every person in here tonight, God. I thank you for each and every member on this board. I just pray you'll lead, guide, and direct us in all that we do. And we ask it all in your Son's mighty name, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Please be seated. First order of business is the approval of the board agenda.
I make a motion we approve the board agenda for January 13th, 2025.
Motion, Ms. Gorman.
Second.
Second, Mr. Surratt. All in favor? That's unanimous. The agenda is approved. Approval of board members' minutes, Approval of board minutes for December the 9th, 2024.
I make a motion we approve the board minutes dated December the 9th, 2024.
The motion, Ms. Gorman.
Second.
Second, Mr. Cash. All in favor? That is unanimous. Next order of business, honors, accomplishments, and commendations.
Right. Fun part.
That's all right, Mr. Cash. Except for that
So right now we'd like to honor our December winners for the Crystal Apple Awards. First, our administrator of the month is Brandon Coggins from Limestone County. Mr. Coggins demonstrates exceptional leadership, dedication, and commitment to our school. He actively works to foster a positive school environment for students and staff and leads by example. He is a consistent and reliable support to his teachers and handles difficult challenges with grace and composure. Our students and staff all appreciate and respect him for everything he does, and we're fortunate to have him on our team at Limestone Central.
Good job.
What's her name?
All right, the teacher of the month is Dr. Rebecca Spencer from Ewing Middle School. Dr. Spencer teaches 8th grade math at Ewing Middle and does a fantastic job. She also serves as our Beta Club sponsor and our Eagles News sponsor, where our students record a daily telecast of school announcements. She always helps when I ask with our professional development and is a true team member. She even has her CDL and does not hesitate to drive when needed.
Wow, that's good.
Wow.
Dr. Spencer is a perfect example of what Crystal Apple awardee should strive to be. We are blessed to have her on our staff and our CCSD team. Our substitute of the month is Ms. Charlene Harwick. She's a substitute nurse for the district. Ms. Harwick has an excellent work ethic and is so flexible and adaptable to almost any setting. She takes the initiative to really know her role as a substitute nurse. She is actively involved in our meetings and school health initiatives. I have worked, and that's Miss Mary Bailey. I have worked with many people over the years. Charlene worked with her in a hospital setting. Her passion for profession has not changed in the 40 years I have known her. She is a true asset to our school district. And our classified employee of the month is Ms. Hope Green. She's bookkeeper secretary at Ola Copeland Community Learning Center. Ms. Green has been with the Adult Education Program for 14 and a half years. She serves as a teacher assistant for 12.5 years, and the last 2 years as the bookkeeper and secretary. She goes out of her way to help the staff and students of both programs, and she never complains. Thank you, Ms. Mary. She helps me with my daily tasks, and in those times when she cannot help me, she does not hesitate to get someone else to assist. Ms. Hope Gray is very deserving of the Crystal Apple Award.
Very good.
Sister and mom, all right.
Right, that's nice. Any board members have any comments to our honorees tonight?
Congratulations to all. Awesome. Thank you for all you do.
At this time, if anyone would like to leave, you are more than welcome to stay, but if you would like to leave at this time, you're permitted to do so. Next order of business is School Board Policy BEDH, Public Participation.
There were none.
We have none. Item number 7, review of the 2023-2024 audit findings. Mr. David Phillips.
And Ms. Isom will do some introductions here.
This is Mr. David Phillips. He's our lead CPA on our audit. He's with Green Penny Conley. He's also the partner with that firm, and he was our lead accountant. So I'd like to introduce him back.
All right, appreciate y'all letting me come. I did want to let you know, we finished all this back in December. We just didn't want to make you waste your time with the hustle and bustle of Christmas to do it then. So in the old days, we used to try to go through this whole book, and now we just put everybody to sleep. It wasn't very effective. And so we ended up starting creating PowerPoints where we try to hit the highlights. So I know you have these. They've been sent out to you. If you ever need help going to sleep at night, pull one of those out, start reading it, it'll help put you out. But what we'll do is just try to hit the highlights on the PowerPoints. But if you have questions as we go through that, please feel free to interject, or if you want to wait to the end, that will work as well, whatever is best for you. All right, we like to remind you of the importance of internal controls, and that's just not something for a school district. That's for every type of entity out there. And so one of the things that we do as your auditors is we try to kick the tires and look at those significant internal control processes. And if we see that there's issues, it's not only important that I talk to Sandy about it and Dr. White about it, but it's important that you know about it as a board. Because how can you fix it if you don't know it's broken? So again, we're doing that behind the scenes. And these are your financial statements so that when we come to this next slide, we as your auditors, we're issuing an opinion, and you have been given an unmodified. I know that's a weird term, but that's a clean opinion. If we didn't issue you an unmodified, you would say everything looks good except for this. Maybe we'd say capital assets or something doesn't look right. That would be a modified opinion. So you have an unmodified opinion. But we did want to highlight that there were some changes that were made in the fiscal year 2024 financial statement. So we had some prior period adjustments, and we also implemented a new GASB. And we're going to look at that. But one of the things that we did is that we converted the old food service fund from an enterprise fund to a governmental fund so that they'd all be on the same basis of accounting as all of your other governmental funds. And a lot of districts have done that. And you had it as an enterprise fund. It's just a preference thing. But we just think it makes more sense so that it fits with all of your other funds, so that it's in the same type of accounting basis there. We also implemented a new GASB where in the old days they would say that if you followed your individual capitalization threshold, which about every government sets it at $5,000. So if you buy anything over $5,000, you would capitalize it. Well, the question came up to the GASB, what if you buy 1,000 iPads? And the 1,000 iPads are each $1,000. Individually, those aren't significant, but in total, that's a lot of money. So the GASB a number of years ago said, you know what? That's a good question. We want you to start capitalizing group purchases if they're material. So your staff, unfortunately, like a lot of our school district staff in the state, they had to go back and look at prior years. The GASB didn't say start doing it prospectively. They said we want you to do it retroactively. So we had to go back and look at prior years, look at iPads, Chromebooks, all those type of things, and just make sure that we capitalize. Now, a lot of that stuff has only a 3 to 5 year life, so we don't have to go back like 20 years. What we're looking about 3 years back, just to make sure we captured all those and those got added to your financial statement. So again, your staff had to put a lot of time into that. These new accounting rules are constantly coming out as well. All right, well, let's look at probably the slide that means the most to most of our clients, and that's your fund balance. Your total fund balance increased $2.8 million to $35 million. Your unassigned, which means there's no constraints on it, is about $30.1 million, which is about 32% of your 2024 actual expenditures, and that's about 30% of your 2025 budgeted expenditures. So to kind of give you a little reference point, I would say most of our school districts, and we do a lot of school districts, probably around 25 to 30 school districts, we see around 20 to 30%. That's kind of where, and everybody does it a little bit in between that. Some are on the low end, some are on the higher end. So as you can see, you really are in good shape there. The GFOA, which is the Government Finance Officers, they're kind of like the Bible of governments. They recommend a minimum of 2 months, and that's like 16.7. So you can see you're really good in relationship to that as well. All right, so why do you want to have a strong fund balance? Remember, a lot of your revenues that are coming from the state, those are pretty systematic. You get a check, every month or so forth. But remember, your property taxes, those bills go out to you as personal residences, probably in October, and you pay them in December if you want the tax deduction, or you pay them in January. But you really don't collect a lot of real property taxes after those dates. So you got to kind of build your kitty so that you can carry your cash flows around to the next cycle, because those don't get billed again until October. So again, it helps you with cyclicalness. It gives you flexibility for discretionary funding needs or emergencies. If you issue debt and they see you have a good track record, a strong fund balance, they're going to give you better interest rates than the person down the road that doesn't keep that, because they look at it from a risk perspective, your bankers. It helps you with potential shortfalls. What if the state, we start going into a recession and they begin to cut back funding? You've got to be able to weather those storms. And so that's what, and it just helps you in uncertain economic times that we live in. All right, well, let's look at your general fund revenues. They were approximately $90.5 million. They increased about 7% over the prior year. A lot of this came in the form of your just local tax revenues. You saw some assessed value growth, the value of all the property, but also remember you had that millage increase. So both of those kind of helped increase those revenues. You also received a little bit more from the state as identified there as well. As it relates to your budget, you came in about 6% over budget, and a lot of that was tax revenues. One of the things your staff is going to do, they're going to be kind of conservative. They're not going to take what you got last year and say, I think we're going to get 10% more. They're going to take what you got last year, factor in millage and stuff, but I'm going to discount it a little bit to play it safe, just in case the economy begins to pull back or something to that effect. So some of that is that effect, and then there's some variability on what you get from the state and other sources as well. All right, well, let's look at your expenditures. They were $93 million. You had an actual decrease, and that's kind of rare, to be honest with you, but it's because of that other bullet point down there where we talk about debt service and that you had a 10 in the prior year, and you paid it off. So last year, you had about 15.4 million more in debt service than you did this year because you paid off that TAN. But if you remember, you're kind of a people business, so your costs are generally always going up because of salaries and benefits, right? And so remember this year, I kind of wanted to remind you, you had a step increase. Remember another $2,500 salary increase. You had some new positions, and unfortunately, benefit costs usually don't go down, and that's usually going up every year as well. You came in over budget slightly, but remember you had a couple projects that y'all were working on that you as a board approved, and that was that bus transportation building in the GHS band room, because you were wanting to put some more funds and get those further along there. So that took place as well. All right, well, let's briefly look at some of your other significant revenue funds. You had the Special Revenue Fund and the Special Revenue EIA Fund. Now remember, these funds and these are federal or state programs, and you have to use the funds for those purposes. They're not like, hey, I can just use them for wherever I want to. No. They're all kind of outlined by the state, but there is a kind of a new development. There's about $6.8 million of state aid to classrooms that comes into the Special Revenue Fund, and you immediately transfer it to the general fund. That used to a lot of times come into the general fund, but it's just the way the funding formula works. It comes into the EIA fund, then you transfer it over to the general fund. So just be aware that that's there, and that's part of that new funding formula. Remember, a couple years ago, you used to have a separate fund for your pupil activity funds, and it was a separate column all by itself. Well, the GASB said, you know what? We want you, in essence, it needs to roll up into your special revenue fund. So now in that special revenue column, if you looked in your financial statements, there's also all of your student pupil activity monies in there as well. And that is, there's at the end of the year a fund balance of about $1.3 million that is related to those activities. You just can't spend it on anything again. It's for those student pupil activities. And that leaves you with about $600,000 that is restricted for other special education programs. All right, the next one, we have another special revenue fund. This is that conversion. Remember, we converted the student service fund from an enterprise fund to a governmental fund, and it had a decrease in fund balance of about $300,000 from the prior year. And we'll talk about that a little bit more in a minute. All right, we wanted to mention you also have capital projects funds. Remember, those are monies that are restricted for big projects that are ongoing. You had an increase in fund balance of about $1.4 million, bringing you to a total of about $15.3 million. Some of the money that you spent this year in that fund were related to activity buses, playgrounds, cafeteria, furniture, equipment, and so forth. Your debt service funds, remember those are totally restricted for debt service. You had an increase in fund balance of about $800,000 to $20.5 million. And remember, when you issue debt, think about it personally. You issue debt on your house, you have a mortgage payment, right? Well, your mortgage payment was about $10.6 million. And that's the type of mortgage payment you will have until these get paid off over time. All right, wanted to mention that you have total outstanding debt of about $60.8 million. It was a decrease of about 9.1 from the prior year, and those were your regular mortgage payments. We kind of talked about that in that previous slide. Your mortgage payment for fiscal year 25 that we're in right now is about 10.1. And so again, you will keep making those payments, and then eventually it'll get paid off over time over its scheduled maturity. All right, wanted to kind of mention some things that are coming down the road. The GASB, which is the Governmental Accounting Standards Board, they set all the rules for accounting for governments. They keep issuing things. And so next year we'll be implementing a new standard on compensated absences. It does not affect your funds, so it won't affect the general fund and stuff, but it affects those government-wide statements. And we'll be working with Sandy and them with that. To just make sure we've accrued the right amount related to vacation leave and so forth. There's another GASB coming in for fiscal year 26 related to other financial statement improvements. And what the GASB really wants is they want more robust management's discussion and analysis, explanations within the financial statement. So again, they just keep adding more and more stuff. All right, well, one of the things that you as a school district, remember, you get a lot of federal monies, and one of the strings to federal monies is that you have to have a single audit. And so every year we have to select certain programs to test, and there's this matrix of how you do it. But we looked at 3 programs: Title I, ESSER, and then IDEA. And so that's kind of what you'll see every year. We'll be looking probably at different programs. We did have a couple of issues we wanted to bring to your attention. So in the report, we talk about, I mentioned to you before about the prior period adjustments. Some of the things that we noticed is that there was a lost revenue that we needed to accrue back into this past year to get it on the right cycle. So that was an adjustment. And remember, there were a couple of your EFC funds that had negative balances, and we wanted to get those shored up so that those were eliminated, those deficits. And so we kind of made those adjustments this year to get it kind of corrected. We also wanted to mention to you, on your bus drivers, you have to test a certain percentage for drugs and alcohol. You have an outside agency that does that for you. They were behind. And so we wanted to make sure they've already contacted them to get them back up on schedule, because that's very important to the state. They want the right percentages tested each year. The other item on the ESSER program, we saw a little bit of an overpayment that needs to be repaid, and so that was another item. And then the last one on the Title I program, we noticed that some of the people in the Title I program, that their time cards and so forth were not having semi-annual certifications where they were getting signed off on. And so we wanted to make you aware of that. Now, the staff is aware of that, and they're working on those areas, and those are already kind of being addressed. But we just kind of wanted to make sure you were aware of those. The last thing here, we have, when they probably sent it out, there's a separate letter. It's called a management letter, and it's like a couple-page letter that's probably sent out. And in the back of that, we put down just helpful recommendations, things that we think would be good for you to consider in the long term. Now, we don't expect these to get corrected overnight. Some of them you may say, we can't fix them. But they're things to think about. One of the reminders we like to do for every school district is, remember, with student pupil activity funds, there's always risk. Little Johnny, little Jill, giving the money to the teacher to the bookkeeper, there's just a lot of little hands involved. And what you just got to realize, probably once every 3 to 5 years, something might hit the paper. Because, hey, something's missing. I feel like your staff has good controls over it, but there's a risk. Unless you're willing to hire another bookkeeper or have 2 bookkeepers at every school, which would cost you more than what you could ever lose, then you have to realize there's certain risk we're willing to live with. And that's kind of what all our schools do. Now, as we move more to an automated online system of payment, that'll help. But remember, there's a lot of little monies that are passing hands at schools, and there's a little bit of risk there. The other item is, we're real big that everybody should formally document their review and approval. We could see a lot of times where somebody would sign, or sometimes we'd see a date, but we wouldn't always see, in every instance, a signature and date. We love to see sign and date everything you did. If you prepared it, sign and date when you did it. When you reviewed it, sign and date when you did it. In the SEC world, if you don't sign and date it, it wasn't done. You can say you did it, it wasn't done. And so that's just one thing that we like to push and remind. The third item there is, remember the county holds a good bit of funds for you. They have been putting that money in demand deposit accounts. We would just encourage you to see if you could work with them in putting it into an investment account where you can earn money on it. Or take hold of that money yourself and invest it. Because we feel like there's some money, interest money that you can make in the future. Also on federal and state funds is to really, on the tracking of it, is try to make sure you figure out how to maximize the use of it. Because sometimes you can move costs from other funds against other revenue types. There's all this funding flexibility. And that's something your staff wants to look at to make sure, we're maximizing. We don't ever want to, hopefully, have to give money back to the state or the feds. You want to find a place for it. You want to use it. Also, we would encourage you to document some of your policies. One of the things the auditing standard board is real big on is they want you to kind of have a fraud risk management policy. Like, what happens if somebody has a concern about fraud? What are they supposed to do with that? Is there a hotline? Is there somehow they're supposed to report that? That's one of the policies. We would encourage you to think about an investment policy. So if we have excess money, what is excess? Maybe we define that, and how do we invest it? That helps give guidance for your staff to know what to do there. So that's some of the items. And the last one I mentioned earlier, the food service one, it's generating a small loss every year. So you're going to have to decide as a board, do we want to fund it from the general fund, send money over to help support it? Do we want to raise rates? Are we going to need to cut costs? But you don't want it to continue to build a deficit every year. And that's something that you, as a board, will need to look at. All right, I'm going to hit the last one, then I'll open the floor. Again, unmodified. I know that's a strange term. That is actually a good term. That's clean. You have really good financial condition. I just want to say something about your staff. I mean, it's a big pain to pick up new auditors. I mean, we're a pain. Think about us. We come in, we're new, we're kicking tires. I've never been kicked before. They were really, really great to work with. And I know you're going to look at this and say, well, why are all these issues this year? Well, every firm looks at things different. I can assure you, if someone came after us, they would find different things. So I don't want you to think of these are areas for just growth and improvement. I feel like your staff really, really care. And I know there's been some transitioning of staff. That's just part of the growing process. But I really do feel like they're really clear about what they do, and they want to do a good job here. Okay, I'll open the floor for questions.
Mr. Phillips, there are two items under the material weakness section that were from 2023. I think you mentioned those. How long will we be required to carry this on our books? I mean, I think we addressed both of those last year.
Is that the Title I carryover?
One is a procurement issue,
Yeah,
or was a procurement
we did not
issue?
see that issue this year.
Okay.
So that was a good thing. We did not. If we had seen that issue, we would have had it re-reported. Even though the predecessor auditor saw it, we did not have issues with it.
So how long will that appear?
It will go away after this year.
Okay.
So if you look in the back of the report, there's a heading that says prior year audit findings. Those are related to the prior year. If we didn't think that they were addressed, we would have had to add them as audit findings of our own. We
Gotcha.
did not continue those. Any other questions? Audit clear as mud, right?
I mean, I've got one,
Yes.
like a simple, coming in as a new auditor, like how would you, not seeing the district, knowing anything about the district, how would you have graded us?
I mean, I feel like you're above average, but it's gonna take, time. You've got a lot of changes in staffing
Yeah.
and so forth. And I think what people don't realize, school districts are different. We do a lot of them. A lot of people, like, if you asked me to go audit a private business, I wouldn't be your guy. But I do a lot of school districts, and so I know school districts. So part of it is it's just a niche, and your staff getting totally comfortable with all the little niches of school districts. The great thing about it is we didn't see control, like people were just spending money badly or not proper review and approve. Those are the areas that bother me the most. The little technicalities of what we're saying, those are things that are easily fixed.
I would just like to add that I thought they did a great job on their end, and I was really pleased with the extra time and effort that Ms. Isom and her crowd had to put in. I think they responded timely to your questions and asking for information and documentation, et cetera. So kudos to your staff, and I appreciate you guys keeping me informed all along the way.
Any other questions? Well, Mr. Phillips, thank you so very much. Thank you. Good audit. Good results. Looking good.
All right.
I think so. At this time, we'll move on to item number 8, the superintendent's report.
Now, the superintendent's report, especially the first part of it here, is gonna be a little gangly, okay? Because this is Board Appreciation Month, and there's a couple of 3 things that the School Boards Association has asked us to participate in. And I'm gonna ask you guys to do that for us first, and then we're gonna recognize some of you with some recognition for your boardsmanship, institute points, etc. So what we want to do is try to go through the ethical principles, reading those to everyone, and then we will ask everybody on the board to come down front here. We have a poster with those ethical principles on it, and we're going to ask you to sign that, and then we'll move on to the next part, okay? So our wonderful, wonderful board chair has agreed to go through these. Oh, you got them figured up. Great move. Okay.
So instead of coming from me, just me, we all have agreed to participate in reading a portion of the ethical principles. Yes, Mr. Surratt. So if you see your name, just kind of jump in there, okay? So South Carolina School Board Member Ethical Principles. As a member of my district school board, I pledge my efforts to improve public education in my community and will solemnly try to represent the interests of the entire district when making decisions and to rely on available facts and on our judgment rather than on individual or special interest groups.
Understand the proper role of the board to set policies governing the district and to hire the chief administrative officer to carry out these policies.
Encourage an open exchange of ideas by all board members during the decision-making process.
C, regular communications between the board and students, staff, and all segments of the community.
Attend all board meetings to study issues facing the board and to enact policies and official actions only after full discussion at such meetings.
Work with other board members in a conscientious and courteous manner befitting the public trust placed in the position of school board trustee.
Communicate concerns and public reaction to board policies.
I didn't get one with the name on it.
I'm sorry.
You would do, all right. Communicate concerns and public reaction to board policies and school programs to the superintendent and other board members in a professional manner.
Support employment of the persons best qualified for staff positions and to ensure a regular and impartial evaluation of all staff.
Avoid conflicts of interest and to refrain from using my board position for personal or partisan gain.
Encourage recognition of the achievements of students and staff and of the involvement of community residents.
Support legislation and funding which will improve the educational opportunities and environment for students and staff.
Take no individual action which would compromise the integrity of the board or administration, and to respect the confidentiality of information that is privileged under the Freedom of Information Act.
Study current educational issues and to participate in training programs such as those offered through the South Carolina School Boards Association, and
Make our district's educational setting the best possible to encourage all students to achieve and to love learning.
Good deal. So my suggestion would be that you all file out in this direction, and Smitty will help you sign off on those principles, and then you can just kind of loop back or go in the other way and come back to your seat. Will that work? All right. And picture? Everybody hang around so that Ms. Fox can get a picture of everyone at the end of it after you have all signed. Yeah, hold on. I didn't think about the picture. Hang around. y'all would just kind of huddle up around here, and then when you finish, don't leave and go back in, okay?
A rule I've always hated.
Okay, just hang on just a second, y'all just kind of back up there a little bit. Yeah. So, once again, this is, Board Appreciation Month, and the theme is Forward Together, and it's been a privilege working with this group, moving the school district forward together. I just want to say, with some help, Cherokee County School District trustees, y'all are faced with tremendous decisions in this work, and they thoughtfully consider what is in the best interest of our students as they make those decisions. They strive for choices that will catapult our school district forward, academically, artistically, and in athletics as well. We're proud to honor them and proud to honor our school board for their year-round commitment, the commitment that they make to our students, to our teachers, and to our parents. And I can tell you, they all work really, really hard. There is a proclamation from the governor that is available for you all to see as well. I'll give copies of that to y'all. One last thing before you go back. Each year, to improve their skill set and leadership, there's a boardsmanship institute that they take part in, so there's training for them. And each year, the School Boards Association recognizes board members who have reached a new level during that fiscal year in their boardsmanship training. And there are like 6 levels, I think. And the first person I'd like to recognize is Billy Blackwell, who is with us here this evening. Come on up, Billy. This is a certificate of achievement and a pin for having reached level 4. You man. All right, and now we have Ms. Shanice Dawkins, our board chair, who has reached level 2. And we have Ms. Carol Gallman, who has reached level 2 as well. All right. And Ms. Lynn Shackelford, our vice chair. Level 2. Thank you, ma'am. And finally, reaching level 2, Ms. Crystal Shippey. Thank y'all very much. Go back to work. We are so proud of you guys, and to give me a break to get caught up, I'm going to ask Dr. Dukes if he would give us a little bit of a curriculum update. You have some thick notebooks in front of you, and we'll tell you a little bit about them.
In front of you, you should have a notebook. So this is every year the State Department issues school designations for schools across the state based on report card ratings. So the report cards were released in October. We notified the end of October of these school designations. So the binder that you have in front of you lists the 7 schools that are listed as underperforming. An underperforming school is any school in the state of South Carolina that receives a below average or unsatisfactory on the recent report cards. So you have 7 schools that have been identified as one additional school from last year and have been identified as underperforming. Each school will be required to submit in your binders, you have each school's plan along with the goals that each school has created to move out of the underperforming status. So the first piece of information here, you see, we gave you a summary of each school's plans and their goals. The next tab would be a list of the activities that were approved and included in each plan. So there's about 20 or so activities that we created in our office at each school, selected what activities they wanted to do. And then after that, you have each individual school plan. Are there any questions?
So you will eventually take action on these plans. So we're giving them to you tonight as information. We plan to come back to you at your board meeting in February. She's got a little over about a month to review these. In addition, Dr. Dukes will be meeting with the curriculum committee. All of you will be invited to that if you want to. And he will be going over the plans in detail with that committee, and in all likelihood, they will come back to the full board with their recommendation regarding these plans. So no action tonight. Questions anytime between now and when you come back in February. Dr. Duke, his staff are available, I'm available, but we wanted you to have plenty of time to study this. And these are the plans that would go into effect for next school year. Is that right, Dr. Duke?
Now, these plans are in effect
Now, okay.
The total cost that we see here, that's the cost to implement the plan?
That's probably the cost to implement the particular strategy.
Okay,
So there are several different designations. So as an underperforming school, you do not get any additional funding. That is covered by the general funds in the district. However, you may be an underperforming school and also be a CIS school. And many of our schools receive funding for that. Or you may be an ATSI school and you receive funding for that. So because you're underperforming and you meet one of those other designations, you get funding. But if you're just underperforming, you don't get funding. I don't even know if that makes sense.
Is that in the plans? Okay.
and what were those two? You said CTIS?
So we go through, let's go to the first tab in the binder. You see the first one is highlighted, it's underperforming. If you're an underperforming school, you do not get any state money.
Okay,
Okay? So that's the 7 schools. right
okay,
here.
okay, okay, I got you.
Then you also have some of those 7 schools that are CSI schools. Those schools receive additional funding from the state and the federal government.
Okay,
So some of those schools may use that funding to address their needs in the underperforming status. Does that make sense?
it does.
Okay. And then you also have the same with priority schools. So you have a particular group of schools that are listed as priority. So they get priority money that they can utilize in their underperforming plan to address some of the needs. So many of your schools in the district, they may be designated 2 or 3 topics,
Okay,
if that makes sense.
So you can receive multiple funding depending
Yes.
how you're rated. Okay.
Depending on your student performance.
Okay,
The goal is for us not to get any of this money,
right.
Yeah.
if you want me to be honest.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
So of the total costs for all the schools, like, was that in the budget, or is that something we're just having to work in, or?
So we don't include this money in your general funds. This allocations come directly from the State Department. So they send us an allocation for each school. And then each school creates a plan to address those funds. And we submit that to the state and they approve it.
Okay.
So it doesn't come to us as a part of our budget process. It comes in a separate allocation.
Okay.
Think of it like a special revenue fund that we keep up with that can only be spent at those schools and for those approved activities.
And then Title I funding would be totally different too.
Title I is completely different.
So that, okay, okay,
So you know all of our elementary and middle schools are Title I.
right, right.
So that's a separate plan, separate money that we submit. Yeah,
And all of them need to be coordinated through his department.
all of them are coordinated with Dr. Jeffries.
Yeah. Okay, I have one more question.
Yes, ma'am.
I see that Northwest is listed to receive ATSI designation for 2024-25, but they're not one of our schools, so,
So in order to receive underperforming, your report card rating has to be below average or unsatisfactory.
got you,
Northwest
I got you.
is average, but they have subgroups in their schools that are performing below the 20 percentile, so that's why they're ATSI.
Okay,
So it's a lot. You probably need 2-3 hours to go through this, but it's a lot.
okay.
Yes, ma'am. But great question.
Thus, the committee meeting.
Dr. Dukes, which is the most severe? So I'm trying to understand the difference between underperforming and priority, and then CSI and ATSI. And if that needs to wait to committee, that's fine. I'm just trying to understand.
Yeah, I can give you a better
That's fine.
overview at the committee meeting.
Okay.
But the CSI is the highest you can get.
The highest priority.
And then after that, the state intervenes.
Okay.
If that makes
The
sense.
CSI.
You have priority.
Yep.
You
Yep.
have priority, and you have CSI.
Okay. Okay.
And they do this by cycles, and the cycle is every 3 years.
Okay.
So if you are in TSI school in 3 cycles, you will be a CSI school in the next cycle. So it's a very cumbersome, convoluted process. But the CSI is the highest status when we have 2 schools.
Okay. Thank you.
And that's not all we're doing to help those schools. That's just that part from that fund source. There are other ways we're working with them. All right. The next would be the monthly financial updates. You did have that ready, so Ms. Isom, if you would kind of cover that.
We don't have much to report, any different than we had, we're still, a little bit above average. We got about 25.8 million in income and 36.6 million in expenditures. Because as, the auditor stated, our revenue hasn't come in for December for attachments yet. That will be when our report next month. So we're within 50% of our local compared to budget, compared to last year. And so hopefully, come December, we're gonna raise that up when the money starts coming in. Our expenses are 36% of budget, which this time last year we were at 35, so we're a little over what we spent last year, but that's all of that is accounting thing. So do y'all have any questions about that? I did want to, make a point about the auditors. They were wonderful to work for, and I think it was good for our school district to have a new auditor to kind of start to see new things, because there's so much going in a school district that I think it really brought a light to my team about some of the stuff we were missing and just not paying attention to. So we have addressed all of their issues in one way or another. We still have some policies and procedures we're working on, but I did want you to know that we are addressing those.
Any questions on the monthly report? Okay.
Thank you.
Dr. Smith?
You should have this flyer on the virtual career fair in your packet. This is something new that we're gonna try this year. It's gonna be in February the 11th for elementary schools, and February the 13th for secondary schools. So Dr. Fox is working on this. We have not presented it to the principal yet. We will do this on Wednesday. But again, we have spoken to all the upstate districts, Spartanburg, and that's not all, that's 8 right there. And they all have in person. A few of the districts don't have anything. But I was at a conference in August and spoke to the HR director in Georgetown. And he said, this was really beneficial for him because, you don't have to worry about schedules as much. You know, having one day for everybody to come in. So we're gonna try the virtual and see how that works. We haven't done anything the last several years in the district, but I'm looking forward. Dr. Fox again has done a great job getting this together. But we're gonna have breakout rooms, and DO personnel is gonna be involved, all the principals will be involved, and then we'll move the teachers from room to room, if you understand that process, and that'll be less confusing, but they will have to apply in our district, and it's not an official application where they're applying at a school, but they will apply for this job fair, and then we'll have registered participants, and then we'll go from there. And again, looking forward to seeing what we can do. We've got to find different ways to reach people because everybody's competing for the same sources. I won't name the districts, but a few that had job fairs, you know, they just were not a lot of participants that came in. And I've always said when I was trying to get a job a few years ago, you know, you either had to retire or wait on someone to pass on. And it's not that way now. Now, there's a lot of jobs, but we can't find the teachers to fill those jobs. So, we'll have more details at our next meeting. We'll be a day out then. I think our next meeting is February 10th. Is that correct? And then we're gonna have our, virtual career fair on the 11th. And again, 11th and 13th, we'll separate elementary and secondary. Any questions on that?
Good idea.
Yeah, I think today's college student, they're so used to virtual settings. This should be easy for them.
Yeah, that's-
Convenience. So convenient.
It is, you know, I have to get past that because I'm more of a face-to-face, in-person type individual. But again, you know, I've been in it for 27 years now, so you know, we gotta find other people. So we gotta get them where they are. That's in the cloud somewhere, so we gotta find them.
That's right, it's in the cloud. Like that.
Thank you, Dr. Smith. I wanted to give y'all a little bit of an update on the cell phone situation. Went real well the first week. I was cautiously optimistic that things would go well. I mean, it was a statewide policy, and so everybody's all in the same boat. So I kind of reached out this morning to our principals and asked them how things were going, and then I pulled a few of their quotes I wanted to share with you. I'm not going to attribute it to any particular school, okay? But this covers elementary, middle, and high school. We've seen a little pushback, but for the most part, parents are supportive. Another says, seems to be going pretty well. We've had some referrals for cell phones, but not to the extent that I expected. One says, we haven't had one single issue. We have reminded kids of expectations daily, and they have done really well. Overall went well. Last week we consistently reminded of the wording and the procedures. We look forward to a smooth transition moving forward. And then I got to tell you, it's one of my favorite ones. We've not had any significant issues. I bought some board card games over the weekend for kids to play. The cafeteria is louder than it used to be, but in all honesty, it's very refreshing. 99% of the kids were playing the games or having ongoing conversations with each other. Been a while since it's been this way.
Wow.
So, I thought I'd share that with y'all. On a less pleasant note, makeup days. So I wanted to give you just a little bit of a refresher. Remember, you have in your packet a copy of the flow chart, decision-making flow chart provided to us by the Department of Education. So that will help guide you a little bit. But just to review, upstate school districts, Greenville, Spartanburg, Union, Cherokee, we are hoping and planning for the state legislature to take some kind of action regarding the days that were missed due to Hurricane Helene. So once they take that action, then we can be planning more accurately. But we can't wait around to the last minute to try to do this either. So we've missed 7 days in September and October, and then we missed one in January. So we used one of our 5 e-learning days last Friday. So we have 4 e-learning days left that we can use. Now, we can use e-learning days for our makeup days. So if we get to the end of February or into March and we haven't used any of our other days, we would have 4 available to us to use as makeup days. And there are lots of different options for how we would use those e-learning days for makeup days, all right? But we're probably going to be held to using those, to utilizing 3 days for makeup. We'll just have to see. So some of the options for using e-learning days for makeup include not just the days that you may have identified on your calendar, but you can extend the school day using an e-learning if you want to, and make up some days that way. You could have an e-learning day on a Saturday, or you could have an e-learning day or 2 or whatever during a break. So we'll be talking with principals this coming Wednesday. I have a teacher advisory committee meeting on Thursday. So we'll be getting input from them, and when we come back to you, we'll be able to share with you what they think are the best ideas about how to do that. So local boards can waive up to 3 days after the 3 makeup days are made. The state board can waive 3 more days after we've made up days and after you've waived 3 days. So that's 9 days. So right now we're in okay shape in terms of you know, getting some days waived and all that kind of stuff. So our plan is going to depend on what the state legislature does, and we'll bring that back to you as soon as we possibly can. The next opportunity, I guess, will be February the 10th. Now, all that said, the first day on our calendar that's a makeup day is April 18th, so we probably will be talking to our folks about April 18 as an e-learning makeup day, assuming that we have e-learning left at that time. All right? Any questions on that? If you did have, I'm not sure I could answer them. Cybersecurity data breach. I wanted to mention that to you. So the State Department of Education, particularly Dr. Weaver, or Ms. Weaver, and her assistant Matthew Ferguson, they've been working on this really hard. And our folks here in the district, our tech folks, have been all over it internally. Our folks have followed all the protocols that we should for protecting our data and for all the reporting. So kudos to Billy Nethkin and his crowd, and to Christina Jennings for all the work that they've done, especially in keeping me up to speed on exactly where we are. The data breach, we used information from the State Department of Education and created a press release, which was in the Ledger today. The next piece of information would be something that we send directly to parents. We have a draft of it ready to go, but we are waiting for the State Department of Education to kind of give us a thumbs up about that communication. That probably will go out sometime tomorrow. Long story short, there was some personally identifiable information that was a part of that data breach that may be out there. We don't know if it's being utilized or not. The Power School folks have given some assurances that the data was deleted, but we don't know that 100%. The State Department of Education is utilizing the Governor's Office and the Attorney General to make sure Power School is held to account and that they provide protective services to our parents and our employees and everyone else who is involved in this. We are going back and looking at Power School now to see what personally identifiable information is in there that we don't absolutely positively have to have in it. So moving forward, we will delete as much of that as we can, storing it in some other place if it's necessary to store it that way. So that's kind of where we are with that situation, and we can hope for the best in terms of what information might be out there. It's not unusual in this day and age. Is there any questions on that? Okay. My next item would be a capital update. I'm gonna try to take the high road on this. There's not a lot of new information for me to give you. So if I don't cover exactly what you're interested in, just say, hey, ask a question and we'll go from there. So the band room. I think the only thing we had left for the band room, there are some fire doors that have to be installed before the final inspection can take place. I believe those, we had trouble with the vendor getting them here. They were promised on 2 or 3 different occasions. I think they may be done by tomorrow, and then we will schedule that final inspection as quickly as we can. But we're sitting on G, waiting on O, and ready to go with the band room. Dr. Blanton has managed everything over there. All the band people have been great to work with. The baseball, softball improvements. So we're making a lot of progress there. We had our last meeting right when we got back from the winter break. So we're moving forward with those. We'll have some concrete things for you available soon. But in the meantime, the Blacksburg project, they will probably be ready to start work on the softball field in February. The baseball field, along with Gaffney's baseball and softball, as you remember, we worked with the administration and the coaches on the timelines. And it was their choice to try not to interfere with this season as much as they could. And so the bulk of the work on those facilities will take place at the end of this season for baseball and softball. That said, there are things that we are doing, particularly on the Gaffney site, to alleviate some of the terrible problems with both infields and water, and some issues dealing with a warning track in the outfield. So the contractors are on site now working that issue. They met that same day that we had our meeting. They went out to the site, and our ADs and maintenance folks went with them as well. So I know they are on top of that. Restroom situation in Gaffney, we have addressed the existing restrooms. They've been, we've put some ceilings in them, we've painted them, we've cleaned them. We've scheduled maintenance for them on a regular basis. We need to make sure our folks keep them locked so they don't get abused in the off time. But in addition to that, we will have 2 standard and 1 accessible portable out there, in addition to what we already have, and a hand wash station. Those should go in this Wednesday. So working real hard to make this season as good as we can make it, and looking forward to next season when they'll be in those newer facilities. Any questions on that?
I do, Dr. White. How long do you think it will be before the situation, the water situation, is alleviated out there? I know they're doing work, but how long would that remedy last?
I think I tried to get a more finite answer on that today, and I didn't get back. The contractor wasn't able to get back to me, but I know practice starts here pretty quickly, and our goal was to get that done before they started their regular practices. And I want to think that I remember speaking with the coaches, and late January, early February was when they felt like we really needed to have things ready to go. So I'm hoping it's going to be within the next week. The sound panels, the acoustical panels for Blacksburg's gymnasium are here, and then we were scheduling installation. I thought it was going to be a little later, but they actually started, I think, today. I ran into a little situation where the size of the sound panels, about 4 by 8, are in interference with some of the cameras that we have in there. So we're going through a process of trying to figure out whether we need to move the cameras or do something different with those sound panels. But I think we'll have that solved hopefully this week. So that's moving forward. all the stuff that we planned to get done over the Christmas break was taken care of. And if you've got something specific on any of the other projects, I'm happy to try to address that. All right. The January, February curriculum and instruction calendar, that multicolored one, is in your packet. If you want to take a look at that. I did want to touch base on a couple of calendar of events to coming up. So the community prayer breakfast at the YMCA is this Thursday morning early, if you're interested in that. And then our teacher advisory committee, I meet with them this Thursday. And the MLK breakfast will be held at Gaffney High School this Saturday. I believe it starts at 10. We have some tables. If any of you on the board would like to attend, if you'll just let Ms. Duckett know, we'll make sure we have a spot for you with us. Remember that the 20th is MLK Day of Service, and we'll have no school, and all of our offices will be closed that day as well. And the next regular board meeting is February the 10th, and then there's some other stuff listed on there for you that's pretty routine. And that's my report.
Any questions? No questions? Okay, before we move into our next item on our list, I would just like to say, going back to School Board Recognition Month, to Mr. Billy Blackwell, who's here today, just want to thank him for his service for how many years? 20 years on the board. So we truly thank you, Mr. Blackwell, for that service, for the wisdom and knowledge that you brought to the board. You are truly appreciated. Any other comments? So at this time, we will go to item number 9, executive session. Ask for a motion to enter into an executive session to discuss personnel matters for the purpose of discussing the employment, discipline, or release of an employee or employees of the district, contractual matters related to the construction, student discipline, and discussion of legal advice regarding board policy BID.
I'll make the motion, we go into executive session for those, for all those aforementioned reasons.
Motion, Mr. Cash.
Second.
Second, Mr. Surratt. All in favor?
Ms. Dawkins, quick clarification, what is board policy BID?
Board policy BID is in reference to board trustee members' compensation, mileage, and, compensation and expenses.
And you've checked with the attorney and it's okay to go into executive session for that?
I have
correct?
conferred with our attorneys, and it is okay to discuss what he presented to us in a previous session. So yes.
Okay.
And Dr. White conferred to get the language
Correct.
that goes into making the motion. So we both taken the necessary steps.
Your attorney provided that language.
Any other questions or discussion? All in favor to go into executive session? That is everyone with the exception of Ms. Shackelford? Oh,
That's right.
oh, okay, so that is
I mean,
unanimous.
no, you said with the exception of Ms. Shackelford, that would be correct.
Okay, that is correct. So the majority rules we will now be in executive session. We are now returning from executive session. Can I get a motion?
I'll make the motion to return to normal session.
Second.
Motion, Mr. Cash, second, Mr. Greer. All in favor? That is unanimous. Action as needed from executive session.
I move that pursuant to the district policy BID, we adjust board member compensation from $4,000 to $6,000 effective immediately.
Motion, Ms. Shippey, second.
I'll second.
Second, Mr. Matt B. Discussion?
I'm just gonna say I'm against it, and I'll vote against it because I'm not here for compensation. I'm here to serve the students, and I just could care less if I get paid a penny.
I think we're all here to serve as well.
Any other discussion?
I'll just say, Miss Dawkins, that, you know, I know, I feel like everybody at this table's here for the right reasons, truthfully. I really do. I think their heart's in the same place. We've spent more time in meetings this year. I don't calculate it, you know, and it's important to probably, but I don't. But we've got committee meetings on top of school board meetings. On top, we've got a superintendent search coming up. I mean, the responsibilities are more and more and more. Having said that, in my mind, it's like serving at my church. It's where my heart is, and I know it is for all of you. And I hope that this is one of those issues where we can all feel the same way and then hold an open hand in the other and say somebody else can feel a totally different way, and we can all be right.
Right.
Absolutely.
We can all be right. So I can feel how I feel,
Yeah.
and everybody is entitled to the way they feel too. So I just wanted to have that piece.
Absolutely. We did receive a comparison of our compensation with other compensation of school board districts within South Carolina. Some was considerably higher, some were lower. We also received a comparison of our compensation with other elected officials in Cherokee County. I think the city council compensation is $8,000 a year, and the county council is $12,000 a year. So we did receive that information as well. That's correct, Mr. Smith?
Yeah.
Okay, I thought you was gonna say something there.
No.
Oh, okay. So, given all the information that we have gathered, any other discussion? So at this time, we will carry this motion to a vote. All in favor of transitioning the compensation of the school board trustees from $4,000 yearly to $6,000 yearly, please raise your hand. That is Mr. Cash, Mr. Matt B, myself, Mr. Surratt, and Ms. Shippey. That is a total of 5. That is the majority. Those who are not in favor, you have the same right. Please raise your hand. That's Mr. Greer, Ms. Shackelford, Ms. Gallman, and Mr. Wilkins. The motion does carry with the majority. Any other action from executive session?
I also move that we direct the superintendent with input from legal counsel to prepare a draft revision of policy BID for the board's consideration to reflect the change to board member compensation.
All in favor, I'm sorry. There's a motion on the table to reflect the policy change to the new compensation policy BID. Can I get a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Cash. All in favor of changing the policy to reflect the new compensation, please raise your hand. That is Mr. Cash, Mr. McAbee, myself, Mr. Surratt, and Ms. Shippey. All those who are not in favor, you have the same right. Please raise your hand. Mr. Greer, Ms. Shackelford, Ms. Gallman, and Mr. Wilkins. The motion does carry with the majority. Any other action from executive session? If not, we will move on to item number 11, personnel recommendations.
Ma'am, do you have the personnel recommendations from administration?
Make a motion to approve superintendent personnel recommendation.
Motion, Mr. Surratt.
Second.
Second, Mr. Wilkins. All in favor? That is unanimous. That motion carries. Committee reports. We'll do a roll call of the committees. And if you have something to report for your community, please do so. If not, we look forward to hearing from you next time. Student Services Committee. Is that what it's called? It's called something different now.
No, that's,
Okay.
that's right.
Student Services Committee, Ms.
No.
Liddy Shackelford.
No report, Madam Chair.
The Policy Committee, Chair, Mr. Cody Cash.
Yes, 1 second. Let me look. We do have a date finalized for our next meeting. Make sure I'm telling you right. January 27th at 4 p.m.
January 20th.
And we will meet in the,
Team.
at the team room in the other building.
Okay.
The
Policy
before.
Committee meeting January the 27th, 4 p.m. at the Teams building.
Yes.
All right. We look forward to hearing from the Policy Committee. Thank you so much. Maintenance, Property, and Grounds Committee, Mr. Wilkins is the chair.
I think we're good. Dr. White, he handled a majority of it.
How is the band room name change going with Blacksburg?
The Booster Club is trying to come up with a ceremony to unreveal it for Mr. Dixon.
Okay. All right. Personnel Committee, Mr. Johnny Surratt Jr. is the chair.
Oh, he had to go to work.
He had to leave. Okay, I'm sorry. He had to be at work. So I think the only thing he's reporting is that on the superintendent interviews are set for January. The finalist interviews. I'm sorry, semifinalist interviews are set for January 27th through the 29th, and then the finalist interviews will be set for February 11th, 12th, and 13th. Curriculum Committee, Ms. Gallman.
We are working on a date with Dr. Dukes. We've got it narrowed down to 3 dates. I think it's January the 21st, February the 17th or 18th. So we'll meet on one of those dates.
Okay. Works Committee, Ms. Crystal Shippey is the chair.
Yes, the Cherokee County Legislative Delegation had a meeting that was at Spartanburg Community College that was hosted by Senator Peeler, Representative Moss, and Representative Lawson. I use this as an opportunity to open communications and possible partnerships with the Cherokee County School Board, as I feel it's important for all of us to work together, city, county, on the state level, to improve the Cherokee County School District.
Thank you so very much. The Budget Committee, I myself chair that committee. Dr. White and I, we're going to sit down and try to get a meeting scheduled for next month following the report we received tonight with our audit. So we will look forward to doing that sometime in February. We have a packed calendar, so we're going to try to squeeze that in February. I think that is all at this time. Any announcements? Let's start with Mr. Wilkins tonight.
I am good for tonight.
Ms. Shippey?
I don't have anything.
Ms. Gallman?
I'm looking forward to going to Northwest Elementary School this Friday and Blacksburg Middle School next Friday, I believe it is. So I'm looking forward to getting to the schools. So looking forward to that day.
All right. Ms. Shackelford?
I'm good tonight, thank you.
Mr. McBee?
Yes, ma'am. I'd like to thank you and Middle and Luther Bone for all the kind things they've done for us. Just really appreciate it. Thank them.
Mr. Grier?
I'm good.
Mr. Cash?
Nothing tonight.
We came in tonight and there were so many gifts spread across the table and all that, and I'm sorry I did not have the chance to open any cards, anything yet, but we certainly appreciate you thinking of us doing Board Appreciation Month. Again, all of us serve, and we chose to serve, and we ran our race in our districts because we care about the children of our district. This is not an easy task. I would tell anybody, it's not easy. It's not easy to make the type of decisions that we are faced with every single day. The phone calls that most of us receive every week or whatnot. It's tough sometimes, but we do it because we love it, we do it because we care, and we do it because we want to see this district successful. We want to be competitive with other districts that surround us, and that is why we each serve. That is why I serve. So I'm pretty sure I speak for the majority of those or all of those who sit here. We serve because we care. So with that being said, we had a wonderful meeting tonight. Some great information came out, and we look forward to next month. I ask for a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
Motion, Mr. Greer.
Second?
Second, Ms. Gallman. All in favor? That's unanimous. Have a good night.